Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rollout. I'm Lindsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello.
All right. Yeah, we're so excited to have you guys here for another wonderful, wonderful Wednesday show. Yeah, let's just kick things off with a little bit of news.
All right. So there was an interesting little bit that I found today, and it's a program that is currently on a Kickstarter called RPG Cinematic. And this is to animate your D&D character. So the creator, Luke Cosgrove, is using Unreal Engine to create a 3D virtual tabletop for RPGs like D&D. The project, again, is called RPG Cinematic, and it has virtual avatars to replace your face, so you can speak in character through an animated mask. So kind of like a filter, like a phone filter, but dialed up to 1,000 because it's made through a program that actually makes computer games. You can also turn planners for your players, waiting for their go, and even have the ability to basically explode dice rolls that went badly. You can also map out. I know. So like you can be in character and just be like, and explode your dice. If you don't like the roll. You can map out your entire campaign setting in 2D. And then if you as the player want to animate your character or speak as your character, then you just press a button and RPG Cinematic will render it as a complete 3D experience. Okay. So it looks really cool. It looks like you're able to turn your 2D map into 3D at certain points. And the Kickstarter is very expensive. Their goal is 240,000 Australian dollars. That's approximately $170,440 US.
That's no biggie.
But it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was called, what was it called again? RPG Cinematic? Yeah, right.
Yeah, RPG Cinematic. Animate your D&D character.
Ooh. All right, so where are all my writers, my world builders? This is for you. So Warhammer is having a horror contest that's going on right now. They are taking submissions for their Warhammer horror contest, and the winner gets a chance to write for the Black Library. So yes, this is so cool. So they're looking for spine-chilling stories for the Warhammer horror range. There's 4 strands of horrors that they're looking for: survival, psychological, gothic, and cosmic. And obviously each of these categories has like a massive scope that is open to you for, terrifying tales across the Warhammer age of Sigmar, and all of Warhammer's, geez Louise, 40,000 settings. So yeah, you can get the details about exactly what they're looking for at Warhammer Community. I'll actually pop the link right in the chat right now. Yeah, so for all of you writers, Ronan, this one's for you. And everybody else, check this out, and maybe you get to write for Warhammer. That would be cool. Yeah, so that's what I got. Okay, cool. So yeah, Genevieve, we got like a super great show today. I'm so excited about today.
Yes, it's going to be fantastic. Today's show is Crafting on a Budget Part 2. So our first Crafting on a Budget, as you guys can remember, was with Steve Huff and Diane, the Pretty DM, and they were absolutely fantastic. Today we have 2 new guests who are both veterans, and I am very excited for you guys to meet them. Are they? Let's bring them on.
There they are.
Hi.
Hey guys. Yeah, so those of you who are familiar with the Fabled 42 family here will recognize Tristan there. Tristan's from Plus1Crafting. He also plays in our Adventures in Middle-earth game, among other things. But yeah, when he got back from his deployment, he discovered the wonders of 3D terrain making, and really got into that. He launched his Instagram in December of 2018, then opened his Etsy shop in the summer of 2019. And like his whole goal is providing affordable custom terrain to, DMs on a budget. So yeah, I think he has built a lot of terrains. You've seen some of his stuff in Fabled 42 shows, but yeah, so that's, wait, I can't do it. There it is. That's Tristan.
Awesome. And our next guest is Ray Nix, also known as GotDM. He is a 4-year Air Force vet and a DM for 26 years. Amazing. He's a crafter for tabletop role-playing and war games. And he occasionally paints stuff and showcases Wiz Kids models, as well as builds random things out of foam, which is also what I do. I love building random things.
That's what so many in this community do.
Foam is like a real core element to most of what we do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. This is fantastic. Yeah. So for people in the chat, I know Chris is popping in the Instagrams. Like, if you haven't seen the work that these two guys have done, it's like epic. Ray, I was going through your Instagram, last night because I was like trying to pull images, everything. And like, you're setting up like the LED lights and it's like you're in a movie. It's I'm like, oh my gosh, are these minis?
Oh yeah. Thank you so much. It's definitely a labor of love. I'm sure Tristan, it's one of those things that you look at your players and it's like when their eyes light up, you just, that's why I do all of this. So it's it's definitely a labor of love. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I guess let's just start it off with, let's just quickly, how did you guys get into this? And then let's just really dive into, all right, folks in this community want to know how to make shit, but can't drop $3,000. So yeah.
Tristan, you want to go first?
Oh, you're muted, bud.
Oh no.
It's not like this is your first time on the network or anything. Right. It's fine.
I know how to operate a microphone. It's fine. No, actually, that's exactly why I got into this in the first place. Was I didn't have $3,000 to drop on, Dwarven Forge or any of the other stuff, and it you want that what Ray was talking about, you want to be able to put stuff on the table and build these setups, like Chrysola does and like Ray does, and just have your players feel the immersion, feel like they're actually in the game and be able to see everything. So your options are either spend a tremendous amount of money, and not all of us are Joe Manganiello and have a dragon head dungeon that we've got full of stuff. So your options are either spend a tremendous amount of money or, spend 6 weeks watching YouTube videos and then be like, I can make that. And then
YouTube. Where would we be without you?
Very bored, especially this year. But yeah, I got into it because I wanted terrain and I couldn't afford terrain. And, I found guys like Ray that are making awesome stuff and showing people how to do it. And that, inspired me to start making it myself.
Awesome. What was the first bit of terrain that you tackled? Was it dungeon tiles, scatter? What was I need to start with this?
So actually I started mid-campaign. We were leading up to this. I had a new group of players and brand new, never played D&D before. It was my second time DMing, and we were leading up to their first boss fight. And I was like, this has to be cool. This has got to be more than just theater of the mind. So I got on Amazon, I started looking at stuff, and I found those ChessX mat things, and I got one of those. And then I started messing around with the dry erase markers and whatever, and like trying to draw stuff. And I thought, okay, this is gonna be cool. And it turns out I can't draw, so I had to go a different route. And yeah, it was bad. But no, the very first thing I ever made, I found Black Magic Craft on YouTube, and I found a guy named Luke from Luke's APS, who's in the UK, and he had a tutorial video on how to make like stalagmites and like cave structures. And so I went to the Dollar Tree and I picked up foam core, and I picked up like Elmer's glue and some 50-cent paints and a little tub of wall spackle. And I made these just horrific looking, just like hideous stalagmite things, and this like big central thing in the middle for the boss to be on. And I was so proud of it. It was like the pinnacle of my creative life. And my players lost their minds, and it was super cool. And they defeated the guy, and it was great. And then like a year ago, I found all that stuff in a box, and I was like, this is awful. Who did this? Like, who made this stuff? Got rid of it, but
they're always getting better, man.
It's like, you know, it's like when you're sick, you know, you have a 6-year-old and they paint you a picture and you put it on the refrigerator. You're like, it's the best thing ever. And then you're 30 and you're like, why do you still have this on your refrigerator?
Yeah, exactly that.
What about you, Ray?
I mean, the first thing that I had to build with mine, just only one small correction. It's 14 years, not 4 years in the service. But it's
14. Sorry, I got it.
No worries.
Yeah, for those of you, there's 3 veterans here right now. Yeah. Well, 4 if you include the voice in the background. Yeah.
I
was got a typo.
Army, Air Force, Army. Gosh.
Yeah. The first thing I ever had to build, you know, you can always go the classic tiles, but it was very similar to Tristan. When I started playing this game, we had zero money. Just to throw this out there, at least my humble beginnings, I grew up on a rural farm in the Philippines. So like we had no running water in certain situations. So I learned from a very young age, if you want it, you build it. So that's how what that kind of got into. So when I got into role-playing games, we were drawing things on graphs using M&Ms for our characters. And I'm like, I mean, I love eating M&Ms, but this has to be better. So I started like building things. And the very first thing I ever built was a forest. Now, I'm not going to describe like this illustrious forest. It literally was speaker foam. I spray painted it with black paint and found out like spray paint melts foam. And then I just started jabbing twigs into it. And we just called it a forest. Like, that's it. So, I mean, it wasn't like the greatest thing, but to see, at that point, I think that's where a lot of my want and need to build came from, because when you saw your players look at it and there was just this, yeah, I think this can work. And then the lights start going on, and then you can see them going, you know, when they're describing their character, like, hey, is that brush the same? Or, you know, is that what I see on the table? And their eyes just light up. And that part I was going, wait, I can tell a good story, but if I can show a good story as well, I can engage more than one sense. And I just took off after that. So yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
We're already getting lots of great questions.
Perfect.
So yeah, one question for both of you, and you know we would have asked this anyways, or what are some staples that you always have around for your builds, and you know that you're like, this is what I always have to have in stock? And then what are some ways that you can take a lot of the things that you're making but use them in different maps but make them look different?
Yep, I got a few I can show right here. So these are one of my biggest staples. If I bring it up to the camera so you can see them, they look like rock formations. They're literally just stacked corkboard. And the way you can expand these, I always aim for modularity in my builds. So if you're looking at them going, oh, I don't want one giant stone. Well, if you stack them in 3s, you can place them on top of each other and they just get bigger. So that's the cool way to expand things. And the cool thing about this is that you can make just like simple stone shapes. You can make elongated stone shapes. Really what I've done with these is even made entire caverns out of them. And all it is like, go to IKEA, get like $8 worth of foam board, or I'm sorry, just foam and a hot glue gun and just some paint and gravel, and you're done.
Wow.
Yeah. I can usually make an entire board of just corkboard tiles like that. Give me an afternoon, but if I'm really aiming on something, I can do it in about less than an hour.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Tristan, what about you?
Like I think I heard the question as like crafting staples.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys can
There
see
we
that.
go.
Mod
Mod Podge.
Gotta have Mod Podge. This is actually the smallest container of almost glue that I own. I can't tell you how many times people have looked at me in the checkout line and been like, you're not a teacher, or you can't be a teacher. Don't worry, I'm not around your kids, don't worry.
I'm not sniffing this, I promise.
You can buy Elmer's glue by the gallon. It's amazing. It blew my mind. Hot glue, right? Literally like $3 brushes from Walmart or wherever you can get them, and pink foam. Like there's a mountain of pink foam in my house, but with that kind of stuff, and $3 worth of craft paint from Walmart,
right.
You can make anything.
So I got to jump in there with this one because I think this one was definitely COVID inspired. I got to the point where I ran out of Mod Podge, and I found out, I've been doing this for years, but I found out it was my go-to. Wood glue, black paint does the same job, if not better. And then this has saved my life. It's just a standard knife sharpener, and you never have to buy X-Acto blades or like those breakaway blades anymore. This has stopped me from going to, I mean, you had to find out a way like, hey, can I get crafting supplies and not get exposed to certain things? And so I started looking at ways to do that. So,
yeah.
So what do you guys have any like influences, like anyone that's really influenced you in your creating, or, where do you find your inspiration for what you're building?
Yeah.
Purely my as far as my inspiration goes, I don't build anything unless it's going to be used in my game. So I currently run a game right now. We had 60 players at one time, but I think now we are actually down to like a manageable 36 actively. So I mean, at that point, I get tons of inspiration. We've got things in our world that's dealing with Asian cultures that I bring from a lot of my childhood, but stuff that I find truly is just, I always think to myself, if I'm their character and I'm walking down the street, what would I like to see? And that tends to like just propagate what my builds are. And I tend to build fast, so that's one of those things where like I try to get as much as I possibly can for my games. Just
I build my home game disbanded like just before COVID, so it's not a COVID related thing, but so I haven't actually built anything for my own table in over a year now, but as far as inspiration goes, I've been very, very lucky to get to build stuff for DMs all over the country, and actually I've built stuff for people in Hungary and Australia and all over the place. So I've gotten to and anytime that I do anything like that, I always want to sit down with the person and talk to them, or as close as you can get to sitting down with anyone right now. But you want to sit down and talk to them and find out exactly what Ray was saying, like what do they want for, like, gosh, how do you like what are they trying to evoke? How are they trying to immerse their players? Like what kind of atmosphere they're trying to achieve, and then kind of go from there. And working with Solo has been awesome because he'll say, I need a 3 foot by 4 foot rock wall. I'm like, okay, well, what else? Like what color do you want it to be? And he's like, I don't care. It just has to be huge. So, I've gotten to do some stuff that's kind of given me a lot of creative license. And originally I was building stuff that was very sort of in the fantasy aesthetic. And a lot of the builders that I kind of admire, Luke's from Luke's APS, Luke Towan, who's a like model railroad crafter. There's a guy who has a YouTube channel called Real Terrain Hobbies, I think it is. And then another guy from the UK who runs High Eye Workshop. And those guys do like photorealistic miniature stuff. And that's just so cool to me. So I kind of draw inspiration from that and try to kind of blend that, the dark and dirty D&D aesthetic with
the Eminem aesthetic.
Yeah.
I try to blend that with some of that realism to build that immersion that people are looking for.
Nice. Right. Honestly, I just want to play a game that's all candy now, but only if I can DM. Only on the single condition that I get to eat the candy. So this is a question.
Yeah.
Done and done. This is a question from the chat. How do you keep ideas within a budget? Do you have trouble with this? How do you navigate the process of planning a project to ensure success?
So I think that I can take it, at least from my side. I tend to build modular pieces so I can always come back and kind of put things back together. But if I've got to build something specific, let's just say that is large or I've got a multi-level thing that I've got to budget out. The first thing for me I always look for are materials that I can do something like other than its primary thing with. Like, here's a good example. Foam is really good, but because foam, I can shape it to anything. I can make it look to wood, whatever I want it to do. It starts getting crazy though when I start adding like lights, sound. I start adding things like I started using these small little heaters to actually engage my players with smell. So like I'll put cumin in there, I'll put spices in there. So when I'm working with it, I'll turn it on, and it actually makes my game board smell like an Indian restaurant.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So it's things like that. Like that's when I blow my budget out the window. I mean, it's like, oh, I want to do this. And, it's like a good example of what I started doing was like, I would put small Bluetooth speakers in them. And I would play the sounds of people like walking in the background and like ASMR sounds. So like if the players are watching my table, the closer they put their ear to it, you can hear conversations. And I record my players, so then I'll put that through like a cavern sound. So it's like they're walking and they can hear the echo in the background. They're going, what the hell is that? It's actually them speaking.
Wow.
So that's where I blow my budget out of the water, is like when I'm like, maybe this mountain wants to speak. So yeah.
Tristan?
So I have the advantage of, since most of the stuff that I build is commissioned, I kind of have to stay in a very specific budget, or I don't make any money. So I take lots of notes to kind of plan stuff out, which I didn't used to do, and then I found that I was wasting a lot of stuff. But the other thing is, even high-end stuff, even like like Woodland Scenics, Flock, and stuff like that, is like this tub cost me like $11. Which, we're talking about crafting on a budget. Like $11 sounds like kind of a lot of money. You can build, a whole city of houses for $11. But even though there's an upfront cost there, it lasts forever. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've only ever bought one container of any color that I use. And then I make a lot of my own stuff. When flock obviously is not one of them because I tried. I can't do it. It's bad. But like washes, like anytime you build basically anything, you're going to put a wash on it. It's kind of the glue that ties all of the colors and the elements together. And wash is expensive. Like if you go out and you buy the Games Workshop washes, you get this little pot of wash, and it's insanely expensive for per ounce. It's stupid. Hold on. Let's see if I can get out of this here.
Yeah, it's silly because like I do the same with my cosplay stuff. Like it's never fully finished until it gets a wash on it. That's kind of when you know the piece is done, is when it's got the dirt and the grime and then the wash over it. And you can make that stuff for pennies. Like literally, it's just nothing.
Well, so this pot of wash cost me like $18 back when I was still buying this stuff. Right. And I mean, you can see how much of it I've used. It's going to last a long time. But this little tub of acrylic ink cost me like $6. And I have filled this with black wash 10 times, 15 times. And I haven't even gone through a fraction of that ink. So I think staying in budget, for me anyway, is about finding ways to not spend. It sounds stupid. Save money by staying budget by not spending money.
Yeah.
But you invest in good stuff that you can make on your own down the road. It's going to last you a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. So how? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ray.
No.
So how much time do you guys usually spend on like each set? Like if you're starting from scratch, like how long does it take you to, I guess I'm sure it depends on what exactly you're building, but.
Yeah. I mean, I can usually build a structure from start to finish, dry paint, probably takes me about 8 hours. And that's usually when I look at a structure, if I give a size ratio to that, that's something like about half the size of what's that, like Skull or the Manor in Waterdeep. I mean, it's pretty average size. One of the reasons why I'm able to do it is I'll share this. I share this with some of my followers on Instagram, but here I'll show everybody. Here is this. While most people are waiting to get things dry, I bought one of these things, just a personal heater. And what I do is I put this over an A-frame, just like we would have done in the field, kind of log this like that, and turn it on, and it just blows hot air on any of my project. And so it dries in less than, I'd say, 10 minutes versus waiting an hour. So that's how I'm able to jump from project to project really quickly.
Wow.
I actually, the last commission that I sent out, I think I spent 28 hours, 30 hours, give or take on.
That's a huge project.
It was big. And, I think I talked about this the last time I was on, but like hand carving books and stuff.
Yeah.
There's I wouldn't spend nearly that amount of time on something for my people. I'm going to tell you that right now. But just however long it takes to achieve the effects that you're looking for. That heater thing is genius though, because I spend way too much time waiting on paint to dry.
So smart.
It's just, you have to watch it. So it's like anything else, it's obviously like if you're dealing with equipment, so you have to watch it, but you put it over. Like what I did was I took like a PVC pipe, just made a simple A-frame, throw it over, let it sit there. And if you want to get it drier even more, I put like cardboard around it. So it's literally like a easy bake oven. That's where I got the idea.
Nice.
Those are so safe. You know what? It's the creepy crawlies. That oven that's the nightmare. That one has metal, the literal metal disc that you
Right.
put in there, and ooh. It's like not only you installed yourself on what is probably these lead pieces of metal, but you're also going to pour molten
that we're eating from.
Yeah. It's fine. The housing is asbestos. It's totally safe.
Oh my gosh.
It was made in the 80s. That means that it's totally safe.
Oh.
So this
totally
is another
safe.
question. Yeah. Another question from the chat. Has one build in particular really gotten under your skin when it wasn't just right?
All of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I stream like really, really late at night some of my builds, and there have been moments where like I've spent 6 hours, didn't like the way paint is, and I just threw it in the garbage. Like I'm just, yeah. I am my worst critic. Yeah, it's exactly that, because like I know Tristan does stuff for commission, but it's exactly that. It's like you wanted this to be the best thing you put forth out there, so your players can enjoy it. And it's like painting the back end of like here's a good example on this. This is a shelf I've made, right? A little shelf I made here, and you didn't have to paint the back of this, but I did because I know it's going to be there. So I'm like, that's you get that kind of way with it. So I don't know, Tristan, have you gotten to that point as well?
Oh yeah, no. In fact, the big rock wall that I made for the season 1 finale of Realms, I almost didn't send because I ran out of time and I couldn't paint the back of it. And I literally I put it in a box and like took a minute and then shipped it out with just naked pink foam on the back, and it still hurts my soul to think there's something out in the world that's pink on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Can't stand it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So how did you guys go from making, like, oh, I want to just up the experience for my players, to being like, I might just want to turn this into a business? Like, what was that transition? How did that work for you guys?
Tristan?
My wife said, this stuff can't live in our house anymore. You have to get rid of some of this stuff.
Fair.
I started building stuff and I was like, okay, this is fun. And then I started building more stuff, and then I started building stuff I didn't even need for my game. And then I started building bigger and bigger stuff, and there was just like this mountain of stuff. It was just sort of accumulating on our kitchen table. And she was like, okay, first of all, this is really good, and I'm super proud of you, or something like that. And secondly, you have to get rid of some of this. I said,
you have to put it in that sandwich, that praise, criticism, praise.
Yeah.
I love you. This is garbage. Get out of here. No, so she suggested that I start putting it on Instagram and see if I can sell some of it. So I did, and I got incredibly lucky because I had no idea the crafting community and the D&D community on Instagram was so huge and accepting and amazing. But within like 2 days of putting up some really poorly lit, just awful pictures of, I don't even remember what, on Instagram, and having 0 followers, some guy, well, I say some guy, it's Cody from Dungeon Master's Diary, messaged me, and he was like, hey, I want to buy some of your stuff. And I was like, okay, you're funny. What do you really want? And he was like, no, I want to buy some of your stuff. And so we talked about it. We negotiated a price, and I boxed it all up and I sent it to him. And suddenly I was in the crafting business. It was
Awesome.
Mostly by accident, really.
Yeah. Serendipity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, it just happens. Yeah, but yeah, it's for me at least. I don't run a terrain business. I don't do any commissions per se. But for me, I just decided to go on Instagram because of actually it was my wife. My wife told me, she goes, is anybody, you like to do this stuff? Why don't you just put it up there and see where it goes? And you got to understand, I had no idea anybody would care about me cutting foam. Like, I was just like, all right, why not? But I love to teach, and I love teaching people how to do these things. And what I kind of fell in love with was, I was like, you had people DMing you and saying, oh, how do you turn a piece of cork? Or, hey, I only got paint. But the part that got me was, I had a pretty significant following in Asia. And I had some people in the Philippines saying, how do I make what you make? Oh, by the way, I don't have access to 90% of your stuff.
Oh, wow.
And so then I had to look at it and go, that's really where my military skills came in, because I was like, we've all been there. You got to make it work. All right, how do I do this? And I'm just going, all right, let's get some paper mache stuff and figure out from there. And it was crazy, because I found out how to make all these different supplies just by hand, and to be able to share that with people. And that was just one of those things that just made me smile. So yeah.
I see a lot of minis behind you. I mean, is that just your collection? Do you sell those? Do you
so true story, I have a storage unit filled with minis. I've been collecting minis for 28 years. So my first giveaway contest on Instagram, I was like, I had no idea how much this mini was valued. And apparently I gave away like a $200 mini. And I was like, all right, because it was an old mini. It just wasn't like an old mini you wouldn't care about. But I've got my WizKids stuff that I put up there, because a lot of that is stuff that I give away on free giveaways. And also I started doing that because, like, during our campaign, instead of having my players have to, sit there and go, oh, this NPC shows up or this monster shows up, I've literally just jumped back there, grabbed a couple things and go, okay, we're at it. And it's kind of like, for me at least, it was like, we've all been there playing in a game store, and it's like, I think that mini over there would be awesome in my game. And I just got addicted to that. So I would just grab it. But we've all been there. We go to game stores and we buy minis that were like, I probably don't need it.
You'll find
it.
You'll find it.
Yeah.
Right. You'll buy it, and then you'll find a use for it.
I'll figure it out from there. I mean, it's the bargain ones that are like 70% off, and you're looking at it like, no one's ever going to need this. Like, well, okay. So, yeah.
So what has been, say, I'm not going to necessarily say the most challenging, but someone who was like, I want this, and you really had to take pause and be like, how do I do that? What? Like, something either that was challenging or that was just like maybe one of the craziest requests that you've gotten.
I had to build a piece of terrain using magnets that were opposing each other, and then use the Gaussian strength from the surrounding ones to hold it in place. It's kind of like those things you see that float on people's desk, and they just kind of do one of the. You ever seen that? It's like a little stand, and you put something on top of it, and it just floats there. I had to use the same concept because we had to use the same concept because what we had designed with it was it was a part of a campaign where we had like this Aztec frog looking thing, and they were like, I want to see this thing float, and I'm going, I can probably do that. So I gutted out one of those things that sit on a desk, and I used the magnets to have it float, and from there. So if you looked at it, if you didn't touch it, it completely looked like this frog skeleton thing was floating.
A floating skeleton frog.
Yeah.
I am like, I would never have even thought. That is epic. That sounds amazing.
Here for that.
Next level.
It's probably the weirdest one I ever built. Yeah.
Tristan?
I had a DM from Colorado who wanted a very specific build for the final boss encounter for his campaign. And he said, hey, I want a 3 foot by 3 foot hexagon with a 2-inch or a 1-inch grid on it. And I want a dozen demonic portals in the shape of the Omega sign. and a bunch of other stuff. He was like, "Can you do that?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So he sent me some like reference stuff and half of his commission payment, and I was sitting at my kitchen table with my notes and his reference stuff, thinking to myself, how the shit am I going to make any of this out of foam? And actually the portals were fine, but making a 3 foot by 3 foot hexagon that was actually a hexagon, like all the sides were even, with a 2-inch grid on it or a 1-inch grid on it, was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Like getting all of that to line up, and I had to cut it into 4 pieces in order to be able to ship it, because he's in Colorado. He's not gonna like meet me halfway,
Yeah.
you know, down by the Wendy's to pick it up or anything. So that was the worst. That was the worst. It was awesome. It turned out great, but it was such a pain.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So, so not building hexagons and 1-inch grids for your first time. What would you say for people? What would you suggest people like do if they want to start getting into this? Do you have any suggestions for them for making terrain / their own builds?
Tristan?
Simple stuff, houses. Like you can go to literally go to the Dollar Tree, pick up a couple of sheets of the ready board foam, paper peels off super easy. You don't even have to buy like a hot glue gun or anything like that. Like you can literally use glue sticks to stick that foam together, a ruler, a sharp knife, and some paint, and you can build an army of little A-frame houses for like $5.
Wow.
And like being able to put an actual structure on the table, like if you're building something for your home game, like being able to put structures on the table, like no matter how they turn out, like how good or bad or amazing you think they are, like just having those structures on the table is going to be impactful, and they're not super hard to make.
I would say for me, if you're wanting to learn how to craft, it's one thing to pick something that we're like, keep it simple, just like Tristan said. If you're wanting to just get something on the table to be visual and you don't have a lot of time, you've got a lot of things going on in life. One of the best places I like to go to is Goodwill, because you can find toys there that is just like, wow, that'd be a really good idea as a D&D thing. All you need is spray paint, a big paintbrush, and the ability to just dry brush the heck out of it. Because if you spray paint it black, or better yet, if it's brown, spray paint it brown, and then just take a dry brush and just kind of go over it with a quick 1-2, and then use a wash on it. Less than an hour, you've got something you can use on your table. If you're doing a private, like a pirate ship or something like that, you could buy a 225, large amount of money pirate ship, or you can get one that was a Mega Blocks thing that was probably going to get tossed away anyway for like $2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tristan, and with the sets that you're building, how do you ship them? How do you keep them safe? I mean, do they break down into a certain size?
Yes and no. I try to keep things fairly modular as well. Like building big elaborate set pieces that are 2 feet tall and whatever just aren't practical to ship. So I try to make sure that everything is like stackable and relatively modular. And then I've got somebody that I pay to pack stuff up for me. There's a little family-owned shipping place, and I know the guy and his wife and their 2 kids who get really excited when I bring stuff in. And I take it down to them, and they package it all up, and they packing peanuts and whatever else. But so far, knock on wood, everything's arrived safe and sound.
That's good, because that would be the worst to get it, and it's just like from.
foam and stuff.
Okay, yeah, we had one more. Genevieve, I think we had another question from the chat. This is kind of specific.
Yeah, this one is extremely specific. So someone wants to know how to do floating terrain. So terrain that appears to be floating or suspended to emulate dimensional portal rich regions. So,
Like that?
Oh my. I feel like we're looking at it right now.
Let me turn the lights down so you guys can see it away. So kind of like this. So basically what I did with this is that from one appearance, if you put this on the table, it looks like it's floating and there's a waterfall that goes in through it. And actually you can put a light here to illuminate the entire waterfall to look like purple, blue, green, whatever. But that's the part that floats. The easy way to do this, acrylic rods. So cake rods, like the ones that cake masters use and all the, like bakers use, acrylic rods. If you want to get very specific with it though, I've used magnets. You just have to be ready to be able to go, okay, from a weight perspective, because if you put weight on one side of the build, it literally has to be 360 degrees, completely even. So you're counting rocks, you're counting these little pieces here and there. But once you get that done, it literally, once you put it on top of the base, the magnets will keep it floating and it's completely balanced. So.
Tristan, I see a prop.
Yeah.
He's digging.
Okay, that drawer's a mess. We're not going to get in there.
Yeah.
So same, basically. The big difference is I didn't have acrylic rods, so I just used like cocktail skewers. Right? They're just like you hide them behind a waterfall. And the concept is exactly the same. You're just supporting it, and the weight thing is no joke. Like this is the most unstable thing that I've ever built in my life. It's terrible.
Yeah. That's the only thing you have to consider, because like when you're doing floating terrain like that and somebody puts a mini that they've had like, custom painted, and it's like, and you're going.
So the dimension just collapsed. Yeah.
You didn't need death saves there, buddy.
Dimension door has failed.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So do you guys have something that you've always wanted to make that you haven't made yet?
Yes. I've always wanted to reconstruct the establishment. It wasn't really necessarily a house, the establishment I grew up in. So I've not really had an opportunity to build like huts or things that would be more, I would say, Far Eastern Asian style influenced. I've recently got to start on it, but for the longest time, I've focused on like, classic European medieval warfare, things like Middle Eastern, a lot of Middle Eastern influences. But this is going to be the first year that I've actually been able to like dig into like just Far Eastern influences. So we're looking at like buildings from Vietnam, buildings from, the temples from Myanmar. I mean, that's one I've already started to try. Yeah. And it's the one reason I picked that one, because if you look at Thai influences, which had the gold and everything, I love the way the natural, like the land has just like, this is my temple, and it's tried to overtake it with undergrowth and stuff like that. So I really love the ones from Myanmar. So I've been digging into that. But yeah, that's, I would say in a nutshell for me, is just to be able to build things from home. So
yeah.
Minas Tirith. Like someday when I have enough space, I will build a playable Minas Tirith.
I mean, I feel like with the way Adventures in Middle Earth is going, you might need to do that. I just, just saying, we might need to make a journey there just to see what you build.
Both Chris's would tell you I need to finish Rivertown first, or Lake Town.
That's true. Yeah, and the chat, apparently the chat, there are many people that would 100% buy that from you.
Yeah.
Well, the amount of time that it would take, I could probably only build one this lifetime, but hit me up next.
It's like, that's going to be $50,000.
I want to retire off of this.
You know, coming back to keeping it within a budget.
Well, and I think the whole point of like of like budget crafting is not paying somebody else to do, do your craft stuff, right? The best way that you can keep things in a budget is to just get some basic supplies and experiment and just start building stuff. And if it sucks, throw it away and build something else. Yeah. I tell my son this all the time, and I was totally kidding earlier when I said that I threw my first stuff away. I actually repainted it and used it. Don't throw anything away. Like, it's just foam. It's just paint. It's just, whatever. And if you don't have, like, if your budget is so small that you don't have money for, like cereal boxes, right? The box, your Amazon stuff came in the other day, like, that you can go out into nature and find bark and cool rocks and sticks and leaves. And, you can literally just buy some paint and some glue and be able to put something on the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely don't need to make it super complex. I mean, one thing that I routinely do is just take a walk and you'll find something. Like, somebody was asking one time, like, how did I get these intricate little flowers? I was like, Mother Nature provided. All I did was just go out and say, hey, can I borrow it? So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Just kind of walk around, just enjoy the things. It's sand from the beach or pebbles from here. But the only thing I will say is just make sure you cook like put them in the oven. Just, he says, one beetle infestation is enough for you never to forget that.
I was going to say, oh my gosh, check for bugs.
Yeah. I had a carpet beetle infestation because I took a bark that I was like, I never need to cook this. And I put it in a model, and I was like, there was one, I trailed it all the way down to that. And I'm like, I knew it.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. Always bake them.
Oh. Yeah. That's a hard lesson to learn.
Right.
Trust me, 2 days in that hotel, I was like, I did this. And So right?
Along those lines, what's the hardest thing that you've ever had to figure out how to do? Like, how to learn? Like, those waterfalls looked interesting.
Yeah.
I think the hardest thing for me was, I don't know if it's the hardest thing to do, but a lot of it for me was that coming to terms that my players don't see terrain like this close. So I don't have to put so much detail into this. Like, I don't have to paint like the letter to a book. Like, everybody sees it 3 feet across or three feet away from them. So things like getting upset because another crafter builds better or another painter builds more, as a D&D crafter, my players are never going to get that close. They're going to see things and hear things. So I think for me was that it wasn't, how can I say this? I didn't get demotivated by a lot of that. And I think the part that I loved learning about it was, that's what I enjoyed about crafting, was just learning how to paint, learning how to glue things, adhesives, the way materials work. In cosplay, it's kind of like I've never built anything for, I would say I've never cosplayed myself, but I've built things for cosplay, and it was really cool to learn like how fabric moves. And if you punch something, you have stress points that are completely different in the costume. So I guess that's what.
Why are you punching costumes?
Well, the only reason, because I had to make a fist. It was like a Mega Man costume, and they wanted to actually able to punch. And when they punch, it was supposed to light up, and so I had to put lights in like the back of it, so it looked like they punched and lit up. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. So yeah,
like.
Yeah. I mean, that was probably the hardest things around, but I think that's the other side to contra that, is that I just learned to love learning to learn, or loving to learn. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So,
Tristan, any final?
Build stuff. Like just, and like Ray was saying, it's all about the journey. It's all about learning. It's all about, getting better. And, and the only way that you do that is just by building stuff,
Yeah.
Just keep
do it.
Just do it. Like, stop. What are you doing? Where's Shia LaBeouf when we need him? Just do it. Just build it.
Yeah. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. And the Instagram community is, at least the builder community on Instagram, is so helpful. I mean, all you have to do is hit a message button and you'll get something. Trust me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh
Well, I remember the first time I ever got a message from somebody. They're like, "Hey, how did you do that?" And I was sitting next to my wife, and I started typing up this, this long-winded explanation of, okay, well, first you do this, and then you do this, and then you dry brush, but to make sure it's not too whatever. And my wife looked over and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I kind of explained it to her, and she was like, "Well, if you tell him how to do it, he's not going to buy anything from you." And I was like, "That's fine. Like, why would he buy it from me if he can make it himself?"
Yeah.
And that's the whole builder community. Like, anytime, any day or night, if you want to know how they did something, message them. They'll tell you.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that being said, if obviously anyone here in the chat wants to reach out to you, those are your social medias.
Yeah,
guys,
absolutely.
if you have questions, please reach out to these guys. Find their Instagram, their Etsy. Amazingness. Thank you so much for being here. I can't believe it's already been an hour. I'm just like, I could just keep listening to you, and I am not like a builder. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for everything, and I'm sure we will have follow-up shows, because this was amazing. We have another crafty show for you next week, sort of, Genevieve.
Yes, this one's actually a little bit different. This one is going to involve makeup artists and models, specifically creature models. And it's going to be about how to design and create fantasy characters, what it's like to be the MUA, the makeup artist who designs and builds the character, and what it's like to actually be the model and be the character. Like, both have their pros and cons. Both are really interesting. I've been on both sides of the makeup chair. And so I'm really excited for that one, because it's Halloween week, and we get to talk about some spooky stuff. And our guests have worked on some spooky TV shows, films, and they've done it all. So I'm very excited for this show.
Yes. All right. Right now, guys, enter raffle into the Twitch chat to be entered into the giveaway, and make sure you come back here in 30 minutes for the next episode of the Realms of Vucador, and Chris Solo will announce the winner of the raffle at the beginning of the show. So thank you all so much for tuning in, for all your amazing questions. And again, thank you, guests. We'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
See ya.